So I have clicked the button, just so you know. So technically we're live. Okay, guys, welcome to the CarrGuy and SixFan show, where we are another Thursday evening, and you guys have chosen to be with us on our season 3 finale. We are the gold standard in automotive talk show. I'm not going to go through the rest of it because I think it's old school or old news now. But I'm just half the show. I am the CarrGuy of the CarrGuy and SixFan show, and right over here is my partner and co-host, partner in crime.
And that would make me straight SixFan or the SixFan of the operation. So welcome everybody into the season finale, as Jason said, of season 3. We feel like we've built a pretty good following here now after 3 seasons, and thanks for coming along the ride. But as you know, season 3, what makes it different than seasons 1 and 2 is we were more guest heavy. And so with no further ado, down below me, want to kind of hand it over to our guest, Matt, whose channel is I'll let him do the talking.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a fun channel to start up, just messing around with mostly random tinkering, really. It's like, can I make a channel with just random tinkering and things like that? So it kind of evolved into what it became with the whole VIC swap, frame swap thing. And yeah, I've had a ton of fun with it. I'm not super consistent, which I'm working on, but with work and things like that. But the goal is to get it to be more of a consistent, enjoyable, more regularly kind of uploaded kind of channel. And even with the being able to be lax with it, it's been a ton of fun. I think sometimes if you with some channels, if you get in your head too much about it and go too crazy about it, then you can burn yourself out. I've definitely not burnt myself out. We'll just say that.
Well, and we're going to get into a little bit about what it is you do on your channel. But before we do that, we want to just make sure we take a few minutes to go through the chat and thank everyone for being here. So I'm going to start up here at the top if I can get my cursor to work properly. And we had our first guest jump in there, which was obviously straight SixFan with a quick message, but Impact's Garage and Gaming. Terry Eford has jumped in there as well, Martin's Garage. We've also got JB Freeman and Auto Alley, who is a new follower from last week's show. We've got Panther Platform as well, and people are continuing to join the stream. So welcome everybody. Pate's Performance has also joined in there. So welcome guys to the CarrGuy and SixFan show, where the game is made up and the points don't matter. So welcome to this part where we start talking and asking a few questions of Matt and Grant. Why don't we start off with a couple of questions from your end while I see if I can find my notes.
Well, one thing that didn't get listed out there. So Matt's channel is River City, in case you guys didn't know. And I did also want to let the crowd know. So tonight, as the beginning season finale, much like we did in season 2, we do plan on giving some stuff away here tonight. So you'll want to stick around to the very end. We'll kind of ask some trivia questions of you guys and hopefully get some free swag away. For me tonight, via Instagram, I got a pretty cool prize pack from Greasy Boy Customs Hot Rod Shop. And he sent a ton of stickers free. I'm going to keep the t-shirt, but I'm giving away the hat and a couple stickers because he sent me a ton of that. So that's what will be on at stake for me. I know Jason's got some of his t-shirts from his store, but I guess where we'll start, Matt, is so obviously the bread and butter of your channel is the F100 body swap on a Crown Vic platform, and I know we got a lot of Panther platform guys in the crowd thanks to Jason's grandma project, the Grand Marquis. But I guess I'll just start there since that's kind of your mainstay. What was the appeal, or what was just the overall? I think you've referenced Nathan's Garage, of course, a couple of times in some of your videos, but how did you start obsessing about that's what I've got to do?
I had originally heard about it from some of the old timers, car guys and stuff from like the 80s and the 90s. They were using like town cars and Crown Victorias and stuff as platforms to put on, like to put their street rod bodies on and stuff. And I just I never was really into the whole street rod thing where you're Frenching in a third brake light and like painting over your chrome and everything. So I kind of like just put that in the back of my head as I'm not interested in that. And then I did see Nathan, and he did his truck where he did it down and dirty. Just, you know, bought a 2008 or 2006, whatever year it was. It's the one that had the Watts link and the 4-link and everything. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now this is outside of the 80s and the 90s. It's got the cool, you know, trick suspension setup and everything. And then, you know, he just put this body on it but when I saw it and I watched it and I was intrigued by was he used the original Crown Victoria dash and steering column and everything. And I'm like, can I, like, you know, the wheels started turning and the gears started turning. Like, can I do that in a way that it makes the interior almost looks bone stock, but to be able to have, you know, that whole Panther platform and everything, and the rack and pinion steering, the overdrive, you know, the fuel injection, the Watts link with the 4-link, that's a huge combo back there. That's so cool. And so it was just kind of a challenge to myself. And then I bought the F100 first, and then I bought the Vic. And then that night I drove one regret that I have is that I didn't enjoy the Vic as much as I could have. I drove it like the 20 minutes home, and then within 10 minutes of getting home, I had the saws all out and started cutting the top off of it. Like, I really should have like enjoyed the Vic, dressed up Blues Brothers style. Got a friend of mine, you know, like get in tuxedos and drive around town for a while first. But it's like I was just so excited to get into it. So yeah, it was just after seeing what Nathan did, and it was just kind of a challenge to myself to see if I could find a way to make it look much more organic and much more old school and keep the original dash and try to make it to where you really couldn't tell, but it drove like it was on rails, which it does, which mission accomplished. That was great.
Well, and part of, you know, people putting modern running gear, like, I mean, of course, everybody's doing an LS swap on everything. And the biggest reason why they're doing that is just the built-in power. But more so the reliability. And I don't think that there's another modern day car out there or in the modern era that is as reliable, as functional, as comfortable, as fuel efficient as a Panther platform. And I think too many people are just looking so far away from that. Now, all you F100 guys are going with the front end swap. To try and accommodate that ride, you just simply took it a step further. So tell us a little bit about the actual planning that went into doing what you're doing. Obviously, you're sitting on a unibody truck on a frame-on chassis, and from what I can tell, that wheelbase is dead nuts on.
It's off by what is it? A third of an inch?
I was going to say, if you say less than an inch.
Yeah. It's pretty much dead on. I'd have to double check what that is. I think, you know, the Vic or the F100 is 114 points. I don't know. I'd have to double check. But yeah, that was the tricky part because I hadn't seen anybody that had done it with a unibody before. And then I don't have a lift or anything. So trying to, like, I started tearing apart the unibody. I'm like, oh, well, somehow I have to lift this whole thing up to be able to get this old frame out from under it. And so, yeah, that posed a little bit of an issue, but I figured it out with using two engine cranes. And once it was up there, it was a little scary. But yeah, like you were saying, like the LS swap and stuff, and it crossed my mind to go with like an old school, like a lot of the people that are doing the Panther or the Crown Vic front end swap and then keeping their drivetrain or whatever. But I started looking at it, even the 4.6, which is not known to be a powerhouse engine. It's just known to be super reliable. But it out of the box has more horsepower than a 351 Windsor did when it came out. So why not go ahead and go with that? You know, I think what a lot of people have in their mind, and they hear 351 Windsor, that was an amazing engine, carburation, push rod. But really, if you want to get down to it, you know, if you're building a shop truck and you want to road trip it and whatever, 4.6 is a great one to go with. And out of the box has more horsepower than the 351 Windsor.
And just to follow up on that, Grant, before you jump in there, is one of the benefits as well of keeping that drivetrain is the same thing as an LS. 4.6s are everywhere, right? Taxis, cop cars, you name it. You can find one of those things in a junkyard, $500, you swap it out, and away you go again, right? So sorry about that. Didn't mean to jump in there, but that's
Oh, no
that's
worries.
the equivalent when you start talking these modular engines versus LS is they're everywhere and they're cheap.
Well, and then I don't mean to jump in either, but you talk about police packages, you get big old brakes, you get really, really tight suspension, you get, you know, all these really big suspension upgrades that are just given to you, you know, with a police package. It's amazing. Let's go. You know, just do the whole frame swap. Why not?
I don't remember what I was watching on YouTube recently, but they were talking exactly about that, Matt, and they were like, cop suspension, cop brakes, cop.
Blues Brothers right there.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, back to the you know, the 302s, the Windsor family, and I've only yanked off the manifold. This is skipping ahead a little bit. This is like a channel update for me, but I yanked the exhaust manifold off of the Fairmont the other night. Just got some extra time wrenching and just eyeballing it, the naked eye, seeing the exhaust port on that stock head versus the one I'm about to swap on. It's like whatever came in the 351 Windsor that you would have put in that truck, like just was not. I mean, 2000 and whatever year your Vic is, 4+ technology, everything's just going to flow better. That any mod you do on top of that, the next thing, you're going to get not exponential results, but every result on the 4.6 mod motor is going to be, you know, just the return on investment is just going to be much better because it's just a better starting point, like you said. Not to mention all of the modern day amenities, which I think kind of leads me into my next question. But you sort of were learning on the fly with a lot of things, the way you were integrating like your air conditioning system. So talk a little bit about your struggles through the build, taking, you know, obviously you're kind of wolf in sheep's clothing here with the 2-valve 4.6, but let's talk about kind of the infrastructure. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced with your build?
That was the challenges, I think, were my favorite part, if that makes any sense, because the whole thing, I love problem solving. And so the whole idea of frame swapping a vehicle is just a series of problems to solve. And so I got really excited about that. Like, oh, you know, fix that, you know, take care of this, and solve this problem. And so that became actually a really enjoyable part of the whole thing. And I think that was the most fulfilling part for me. So yeah, it got on my nerves when I had to call on the phone and talk to this person, and they said, you can't do this. And I had to call, and then I went and called this person, and they said, oh, it might be able to be done. And I, like, all these companies that were not necessarily up to stepping up, they just wanted to keep things as business as usual. I don't want to say that about Vintage Air, but like the particular salesman I got said, well, that's going to take a lot of work. I don't think it's, you know, you really want to do that. Well, I'm ready to do the work. Just tell me what work I need to do, because I don't have one of those systems sitting in front of me, and I don't want to spend $1,200 to get in front of me to find out if it'll work or not. So it's just a matter of one of those things. Those are the little challenges, is trying to convince other people that I got an idea and let's make this work, if that makes any sense at all.
Well, and one of the challenges that you came up against in a recent video that I told you I was watching here lately was actually an idea from your wife, and that was solving the fuel filler neck issue.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that? You know, how you've kind of incorporated that into this current build, and how you kind of got past the troubles you were having with it.
Yeah, I looked like an idiot on that one, because I was just so steadfast in like using I'm just going to use the old Crown Vic filler neck. And then like I was trying to engineer this and figure this out and everything. My wife is at work, and she's much smarter than me anyways. But then like I finally got something that kind of worked, but you kind of had to like teeter the gas cap back in there. And then she comes home, and then I show it to her, all proud of myself. And then she's like, oh, well, why don't you just use the capless filler like that's in my Fusion? I'm like, tried to come up with a good excuse, and I couldn't, and then just decided to get on eBay and go order myself a capless filler. I think I got it out of a Ford Transit, and it worked out well. It worked out really well. It's one of those things. She's smarter than me, and I totally get it. But, you know, to have that, you know, to be able to, like, here I am tackling a problem that I have with parts that I have, but to think outside of things, she's so much better than that than I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, but that's just the, we say it in the design profession all the time. The best idea oftentimes is not in your own head. So, you know, sometimes it's, you know, keep that in mind if you're stuck in a rut, like just go ask someone else, and you never know what. And sometimes it's not even like the other person's idea is what solves the problem. It's then we call it like a jazz session in the architectural world, because then someone's just like, oh, wait a second. Well, then what if we add this on top of it? Oh, and then what if we do this? And then, you know, the end solution becomes something pretty sweet. But
I agree with you for sure. And I just wanted to add too that my wife has also, she's that Mustang, that 66 Mustang that I'm working on. She's been in there. She helped weld in the inner rockers. She helped weld in the torque boxes and stuff. So she's been in the trenches doing it. I should go bounce ideas off of her more often, because she's, you know, we especially before we had our son, we were working together on the vehicles, which was so cool and fantastic. So.
Well, and that's what we try to do here on the CarrGuy and SixFan show. Looks like we lost Jason here for a little bit. Okay, there he's back. I was going to say, well, you know, make you better YouTubers, but better husbands, of course. That's one of the main objectives. So, like, to talk cars and no, just, okay, all right, maybe I'm pushing a little BS there. But so, Matt, you mentioned the Mustang. I know, so obviously, like, we've already covered the Crown Vic, the F100 swap on the Crown Vic frame quite a bit. But there is more to come down the road, and you've got a 31 Model A, if I'm not mistaken, and a 66 Mustang.
Yeah.
And I think if I caught right, there was you had at least an inkling maybe of doing like an EcoBoost swap maybe in the Mustang. Tell us a little bit about the other projects that viewers could expect coming down the road.
Yeah, the 31 Model A is definitely the one I'm probably most excited about. That's my dream car. I've always wanted a Model A 5-window coupe, and finally found one just up the road, probably about 2 hours, and stayed between two farms. It was sold back and forth between two farms for, you know, the past 90 years. So it's only ever stayed there. It was built in the Des Moines plant, which is, you know, 10 minutes from here. So it's cool to have that and have that in my garage, and to be able to start working on a 5-window Model A coupe. And the idea and the goal is to build it as a traditional racer and be able, because up there in Dubuque, Iowa, they have, you know, a vintage Torque Fest, and they have the Model A banger races, which the 4 cylinders that are in the Model A's originally, they're called bangers. That's what they're nicknamed. And so they get these groups of people that restore the old original Henry Ford 4 cylinders with the Model A's, and then they race each other on dirt ovals. And they also have a hill climb in northern Iowa, which I mentioned in my video. I'm surprised. I was blown away. They found a hill in Iowa, but apparently it's there. And they run them up there. And then out in Lincoln, Nebraska, Speedway Motors has their traditional Model A, traditional Ford banger racing thing that they have out there. So I want to do that for a couple of years and use the truck as the tow rig to tow the Model A out there for those races. And then we're going to pull the Model A apart, put it on 32 rails, put the Y-block V8 in it, and build that up as a cool, I've already got parts. I've been collecting parts from the mid 50s. So it's going to be a 50s era hot rod build. No street rod stuff, no LEDs, no, it's going to be what a kid would have built in the mid 50s. And then the Mustang is just a workbench right now. And that's probably what's going to be until the Model A is where I want it to be.
So Matt, in your videos, you're generally wearing either your Ford hat or a Ford shirt. So I got kind of a two-part question. So one is, have you always been a Ford guy? Is that kind of where your allegiance lies? And the follow-up to that would be, if you've not always owned Fords, what are some of the cars or projects you've had in the past? Maybe they are Fords as well. But what are some of the projects you've had in the past?
I think to answer the first part of your question is a really good question. My first car was a 67 Ford Mustang Coupe that basically my dad said, if you want this, you have to get it running right before I'll let you drive it very far away. So it was kind of I want that car. So we kind of built it up and got it going. So there's that nostalgia of having that your first car. Also, there's a lot of, especially you start getting into the modular stuff and working on cars outside of the classicness. There's certain cars that make sense to you, and the Ford cars have always just kind of you kind of fit into a certain brand or a manufacturer that just kind of suits the way that you like things engineered or put together. Don't get me wrong, I've cussed the Ford engineers I don't know how many times, but all around it kind of fits that theme. Also, I love the designs of Ford through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, obviously 60s, even into the 70s. There's always been something about the Ford that's kind of drawn me to that. That being said, I've really owned very few Fords. I've only owned classic Fords. As far as cars that I was really into odd engine vehicles. So I've owned Subaru Boxers. I've owned two RX-7s, one with the naturally aspirated rotary, one with the turbocharged rotary. I've had the Volvo with the slant 5, just because it's like slant 5. I got to own that. And then just all kind of like stuff with weird engines or weird engineering. I'm trying to think. There's a list of just like random engineering. Just the engineering part of it. Just I think that's cool, especially you get into like slant 5s and rotaries and things like that.
And I currently see a Honda Element in your garage as well.
Oh yeah, that's my everyday, because the last thing I want to work on is my daily, right? It's like if I'm going to be out in the garage working, I'd rather work on. And then also I build those motorbikes, and the nice thing about the Element was I can transport those upright, enclosed, without rain or hail or anything being an issue. And I could, because part of the thing is that I deliver those, so to be able to just have them inside in a controlled environment, because if I build the thing and then it gets damaged between my place and where it's getting delivered, I'm the one delivering it. I don't want to be the guy that messed it up. So yeah, the Element, fantastic gas mileage, never breaks, all-wheel drive. I think I replaced the VTEC spool valve in the last 6 years. That's the only thing I've ever had to do with it outside of just general maintenance.
Well, so I think we'll move into, on this show, we usually like to talk a little tips and tricks, growth strategies, any lessons learned from your YouTube journey, because it's always interesting to hear what other people have been through. But before we do that, let's focus a little bit on when you say motorbikes. I'm not sure everybody in the chat understands what that is. I know what that is because it's pretty freaking cool. But explain a little bit about what you're talking about when you say motorbikes.
I build riding replicas of turn-of-the-century board track racer motorbikes. The ones built by Pope, Excelsior, Harley Davidson, Indian. Any of those ones that had the drop-down, handlebar / full-on board track racing, no brakes. Just those guys were rock stars. I wanted to pay tribute to that. And I thought that when I would look at those bikes, I thought they were so cool. The turn of the century. They basically stuck these massive engines into bicycles and with no brakes on them and sent them out there. And they were doing 110 miles an hour on these board tracks that built out of wood, that if you fell down, you just get splinters, like even through leathers and everything. I just found it absolutely fascinating and wanted to build myself one. And then the neighbor saw it. He wanted one. And then I built myself another one. And then a friend of mine saw it. He wanted one. And then it just kind of snowballed into what it became. And then I kind of pulled the reins back because it says Harley, it says Indian, it says Excelsior. I don't know what I can do about that stuff. But I've had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing those and put them on. They're on my Instagram and everything.
Well, it sounds like you've had quite a I don't know how to say this without making you sound like you're old. I have no idea how old you are, but it sounds like you've had quite a career of doing what it is that you do. And I'm going to put you right up there, probably closer to my age than Grant's. But
I'm 38 years old and I'm coming to terms with it. So.
Oh, well. Okay, change the subject quickly before the awkwardness sets in.
The only one who is old in their channel name is you. So
yeah, but the only thing old there is my dad. So anyways. So this is a part of the show, guys, where we start opening up the chat to questions for our guests. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask a question for Matt. So if you have something, go ahead and throw it in the chat, and Grant and I will try and keep an eye on that. But we also want to talk a little bit about some channel strategies and some hacks, growth hacks, or some struggles that you may have dealt with trying to grow your channel, Matt. And we talk about that on every show. So what are some of the things that you've come across that maybe have helped you succeed, or some of the things you may have struggled with to help grow your YouTube channel?
It seems really tough when you get into that. I'd say between like like the 0 and 3,000 to 4,000, you're really slugging away, and you're just really slugging away. And it's hard for me to really. There's people that can understand that much more than I do, because I think in total my channel has like under 50 videos, or right around 46, maybe 50 videos. I'm not sure, but then you see those guys that have like 120 videos with less than 1,000 subscribers. I think for some, there's a way to hit on things. I don't know. I think a lot of it is luck. But one thing that I had heard is the best time to start your YouTube channel is today. And the worst time to start your YouTube channel is tomorrow. And the even better time to start your YouTube channel was yesterday. So it's just getting out there and putting stuff out, and this is, I can't even say this, being consistent. I keep hearing that would help me out a lot, but one of these days I'll get there. But yeah, I think I tagged into something that got really popular at a certain time. And I think another thing is I've got people that come back and watch, because a lot of my videos were somewhat instructional, kind of like, hey, this is how I tackled this. This is how I did this. So it's got people coming back, and it's ticking the algorithm in some way that it's still suggesting that these old videos that I made are still getting suggested over and over. And I think that's picking up subscribers. I couldn't tell you if that's exactly how. I'm horrible at social media. I don't know. I'm horrible at promoting, but I think that must be how it works. I keep hearing there's an algorithm.
I think there's something to be said too. Like, your timing was like spot on, because it seemed like, I mean, I don't know exactly. I think I found your channel as a suggested video because I watched some Nathan's Garage, and over time, then I found yours. But also right around that same time, whenever I was geeking out on the whole Crown Vic swap, or the body swap thing, Hot Rod Garage did their Crown Hick. And I think all those things, like, and so since you sort of really niched down into, like, I mean, how many people were doing Crown Vic swaps on YouTube when you started doing it? There's something to be said about that. And so what I'm getting at is that people shouldn't be afraid. If you really think you have this really out there odd car, definitely do videos on it, because someone out there wants to be like you and wants to see the person who is sort of making their dream come true. And so I think that's something that, as I look at your channel from afar, I think that has probably been really awesome for you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. That, like, Hot Rod Garage decided to catch on, like, the popularity, and you were already doing it before they made their episode.
That was crazy. That actually, you're very right. That's a very good point you brought up. The timing was so good, because by the time Hot Rod Garage had released their video of their Crown Vic swap being done, was right around the time I released the shakedown video. So they kind of worked together. So I think what happened was, when people watched the final episode of their Crown Vic swap, my Crown Vic swap shakedown video came up suggested right behind it. And that was a big thing. Also, I think another thing that's helped me somewhat is for anybody there's so many like mechanic channels where they're like, this is how you do this, and this is how you do this. I went into this not knowing if it was even going to work. And there's been several times in several videos where I'm like, and there's been times when I've stepped outside of the videos and kind of thought about, am I going to pull this off? I have no idea if I'm going to pull this off. And I really thought I wasn't going to pull it off. And a few times, like figuring out the firewall and everything, I'm like, this might not work. And then the channel's just going to die. And then people are going to know I didn't get it done. And I think that was kind of a fuel. That was kind of a
motivator.
No. Yeah, it was a motivator. Just to, no, I can plug away. I can figure this out. Because prior to when I started that frame swap, I had only been welding for like a year. And I definitely didn't understand wiring. And so it was just all kind of figuring things. And like I talked about previously with the air conditioning, I get hyper focused. And if I don't know about it, I'm going to learn about it. And I'm going to hyper focus on that and get it figured out, and then move on to the next little thing. Cause it's a series of problem solving. And that's just the fun of it all for me. You know what I mean?
Well, and I commend you for that, because I know when it comes to working on something to the point of frustration, frustration is not a motivator for me. It's more of a deterrent. So it exudes procrastination. So that's why sometimes YouTube is a great venue for that. And I never claim that my YouTube channel to be a how-to or how to do it. I do it more of a how I do it. It might not be the right way, but
Right.
it's going to be the way that works for me, based on what I've done in the past.
And I think that's what makes these channels relatable, is because we're all us guys that work on stuff, and girls, we're all like that. We don't know everything all the time. And then you have these channels or these TV shows we grew up on that showed you this, and this. Well, you know, it's to be able to have that channel, or that be able to have that personality that I don't know if this is going to work. I have no idea, because we've all been there and we can all relate to that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And so as everybody grows in their own YouTube channels, you know, we're going to find things that are going to work for us that may not work for other channels, and vice versa. We might be able to take a little bit from you that will work, and vice versa. So everybody's channel is slightly different. We did have a couple of questions coming up through the chat. One of them was they wanted to know what your Instagram was. I did share that out. It is at River City Motorbikes, for those who did not catch that in the chat. So you can follow him over there. As he said, he's probably not real up on the social media, but
I post like once a month, I think.
Yeah.
I'll try to do more.
So it's well worth the wait. And before we get going too much longer here, we're coming close to the end. We've got a couple of things of housekeeping to look after, and one of those is a channel update. Grant, why don't you update us a little bit about what's to come on Straight SixFan in the near future?
Yeah, I'll do that real fast. We do have a lot of things to kind of close up, so we'll close the questions, because we do get two more in. One was asking Matt if he watched Roadkill, so Matt, I'll let you answer that when you give a channel update. And then there was one other about sponsorship, so I'll handle that question real fast. Darren's Gray Goat asks, at what amount of subs or vids has any of you first got approached to be sponsored by someone? So I'll say that, honestly, if you want a sponsorship, it's really more on you to go out and get. They don't come to you. Now, some do, and I've actually turned down several because they're like Chinese. I'm going to pick on Jason here for a second. Chinese light bulb companies wanting me to LED swap light bulbs, and I'm like, it's really just not a good fit for my channel. Maybe later, maybe if I'm bored, I'm really looking for content, I'll do that on my Toyota Tacoma, but it doesn't mission fit with what I want to do, helping you build your hot rod and your confidence. I don't think anybody, for not a ton of money, I don't think anybody really cares about LED light bulbs at the end of the day in my car. So, and you can usually just like spam email, usually have a pretty good filter. If the English isn't very good, by the time I'm done reading it, I'm usually just deleting it from my inbox. So I will leave it at that. But channel update, it's going to be more deconstruction on Project Low Fairmont. My goal is actually, for whatever I record on Sunday, is that you should hopefully see the top end removed, because I want to make a scrapyard run tomorrow or Saturday with all of the old cast iron stuff piling up in my garage to add back to the old project budget. But Matt, we'll send it down to you. So again, the question was, do you watch Roadkill? And then give us a little channel update of what to expect in the near future on River City.
I love Roadkill. Roadkill. I love Roadkill, but I really love Roadkill Garage, because something about watching Steve Dulcich, the way that his brain works, he and I kind of fall together. If you notice how his brain, he tackles problem after problem. There's something I just relate so much to watching Roadkill Garage with Steve Dulcich and Finnegan. I don't know. I like that one a lot, but yeah, obviously Roadkill I love a lot. As far as the channel goes, I'm doing my exhaust right now, building my own kind of custom exhaust, because I didn't want to like take it to the exhaust shop and like, I'll try this and see how it goes. We'll see. Did the H pipe today, and then I don't have any big plans. Anything outside of the truck doesn't do all that well. I put up videos about the Model A or the Mustang. I get like a small percentage of the views from those two is the truck. So I'm trying to think, maybe the truck should never be done. Maybe that would be the best way to go about growing my YouTube channel just to find another reason to do something else in the truck. No, I won't do that. I'm doing it, at the pace that I'd like to do it. So,
And all the more reason to be a little more active on social media. Get that buzz going on what's coming on your channel too, right?
There you go. I did some exhaust work today. I got my ab workout in. I was under, and I need to get a lift. That's for sure.
And over on my channel, you guys have saw a little sneak peek. I posted on Instagram the other day that I sold one of my project vehicles. I did not allude to which one, but that video will come out at midnight on Saturday, my time. So you guys can catch that late Friday evening, wherever you are, if you're west of me. So that's all I'm going to give you. I'm not going to say too much more than that. I don't want to give anything away. But before we go on too much further in the show, it is giveaway time. This is the season finale of the CarrGuy and SixFan show for season 4. Having said that, Grant, why don't we do your giveaway first and just kind of explain to everybody what we're going to do in order to do that?
Yeah, so just a quick trivia question, and just I guess for those who know more about my channel than watching the last video, at stake is the Greasy Boy Customs Hot Rod Shop hat and sticker package. So just in the comments, the first one to put in the comments, what was the big build on my channel before Project Low Fairmont? So what playlist would I happen to have that's probably 40 videos long or more that was not Project Low Fairmont? So first one to answer that, we will get this emailed out to you. And while we're waiting for answers to roll in, Jason, why don't you explain what your rules are?
Yeah, so basically, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask you a question related to my channel, and I will be giving away a old CarrGuy T-shirt. And the benefit of being able to do that rather than having something tangible right here that I can give out is I can't make it to the U.S. to mail anything out to you right now because of this whole stuff that's going on. So I'm going to do a T-shirt. That way I can kind of get it and mail it right from Spreadshirt, and it goes right directly to you. All I need to know is the style, color, and size, and within a few weeks you will get that. So it looks like we have a winner in the chat there for your question, Grant. Why don't we look after that?
Yeah, Terry Eford got it right. It's the Rat Rod Radio Flyer go-kart build. Was the first major project on my channel, and so congratulations, Terry. We'll get that sent down to you in Fort Smith, Arkansas, I believe it is.
That was actually the project that sucked me into your channel. So cool. It's so cool.
So we're going to wrap this up real quick. So my trivia question is, a while back we had a project vehicle on the channel that I blew up with tannerite. You guys tell me the name of that vehicle, and you're going to get yourself a T-shirt. So first person to answer that, except for Terry, because he's already won tonight. So we're going to try and open that up for somebody else. And RC Nation jumped in there very, very quickly and said Bubbles. So yes, you are correct. My 2009 Kia Sportage, which we blew up with 12 pounds of tannerite. You can catch that video on a playlist on my channel. So if you haven't seen that, where have you been? But anyways, that was great.
Oh, I was just going to say, we did get one last question in there for you, Matt. I know we kind of closed it, but just since you're musicians, and it looks like another musician is eyeing something in the background, is asking if it's an Epiphone, a Gibson, or is it a Les Paul?
Oh, that's it's none of that actually. It's kind of my writing pig. It's a Gretsch. It's a Gretsch Duojet, and then I've got Gibsons over there, but yeah, that's kind of the one that I can leave around. That's out that my son can, if he drops something and dings it, that's all right. That's cool, But the Gibsons and the custom shop stuff goes into the closet there in its case.
So Terry made the claim that my question was too easy. No one said this was going to be hard. You just had to be quick thinking on your feet. I could have simply just asked you guys to type a couple of letters in the chat. The first one to do it would have won. So anyways, guys, this has been great. This has been a huge success for this season finale of season 3 of the CarrGuy and SixFan show. Matt, thanks so much for joining us and being a part of it. And we really appreciate you being on the show and telling us your story. And I hope that if these guys haven't had a chance yet to go over to your channel and subscribe, that they will do so. So I'm going to say thank you once again, Grant. Thanks for a great season 3. And we hope to get you guys back on the CarrGuy and SixFan show in mid-July for the start of season 4. So I'm just going to say thank you and good night. And we're going to let Grant close out the show.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Matt. I know you and I, we've been following each other for quite some time, and so it's just been a real pleasure to, I know when we dry ran this on Tuesday, it just felt like that we just as well had been high school friends catching up. So it's really cool to have you on, and it's kind of been a long time coming. So a real pleasure for us. I did want to say for the musicians in the chat, if you're looking for, I'll make a plug for the guy who got me into YouTube. Greg's Garage did a spin-off channel. He now operates a guitar tool repair company called Skyscraper Guitars. You can find him on YouTube there. Makes some really cool quality products. So go look him up. But that's going to do it for season 3, guys. Until next time, peace out.
Thank you guys so much. It was an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you.